Whenever you are ready.
Okay, I'd like to call the March 18th ADA Compliance Committee meeting to order. We'd like to start with around the table, maybe introduce people. Jacob, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Jacob Kruzovich. I always get this wrong, so April has to help me, but I'm the representative for the disabled community.
That's correct. It's perfect, Jacob.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Alicia Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Helena's Business Improvement District, and I'm here today with Abigail.
I'm Debbie Lane.
And I'm Jim Whaley, Chair of the committee.
Sorry, I am Ellie Ray, Senior Planner with the City of Helena.
Hey, sure.
I do question it some days, Alicia.
David Knopke, the Transportation Systems Director for the City of Helena.
I'm Abigail Dolan. I'm the Program Manager for the BID. And Pichette, I'm the Housing Coordinator for the City of Helena.
And April Sparks, I've been through the Community Development Department, and then we can go to online where I believe we only have one of the committee members online.
Gina, that's probably you.
Gina, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Gina Vital, and I'm the vice chair of the city ADA committee, and I'm traveling, so I'm in a bad spot right now.
And then we also have Ryan Leland, Director of Public Works, online as well.
Okay, thank you. The first order of business is to approve the September 17th meeting minutes. Those were not approved at the previous meeting. Do we have any comments on the September 17th meeting minutes?
There was some wording in that I got confused over.
Okay.
In a few places,
Can you recall what it was, Debbie?
if she's gonna bring them up, it has to do with the enforcement. And like one was here and I think it should have been there.
Oh,
Cause I read it here and went, huh, that doesn't make any sense.
So were they mostly just grammatical,
Somewhat, yeah.
not substantive?
Well, some of them I couldn't figure out, so I wasn't really sure.
Is that part of your disability?
No,
Jeff's.
I know.
For which section it was?
It's in the enforcement. And I think it's this.
Can you make the screen bigger?
that is.
Oh, the third line in the second section. However, there are some code sections which have their own penalty provisions. Is that what it is after the $500?
A typo.
Should be
Yeah.
there.
It's
Okay.
a typo.
There is one. And then further down. I didn't understand. Miss Doctor stated the inventory of the code, which her office is conducting, will give use that number.
Another typo.
Okay.
Another typo. We can correct those and then.
And I think there's one other.
Mine's mouse again here. Oh. Here, why? Yeah. We can make those corrections.
Okay.
Okay, with those corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
very much, Debbie, because that shows that you actually read. Not everyone does.
The next order of business is the approval of the January 21st minutes. Yeah, do you have any?
Well,
comments?
not with the wording, but you're talking about the transition plan. And one of Jacob's comments was he wanted them to come back and tell us in the next meeting. And I thought you did that about enforcement, not on the transition plan.
I think it was on enforcement, yeah. Yeah, it was.
So we do have noted here that Commissioner Reed asked about the standing item on enforcement. Jacob did as well. So there were multiple questions about that standing item.
But when you talked about transition, that's when you said he wanted them to come back and talk about
It was at the tail end of that discussion.
it. Maybe in the next paragraph.
We have right here. So I
No, further down in the next one, Mr. Krishovitz asked if it would be possible for the
for
city
city
attorney.
attorney doctor at the next meeting.
But
to
it
give an
wasn't
update.
about the transition, it was about the
About
enforcement.
update, yeah, about the enforcement. So it would.
Under public comment,
Mhm.
if you scroll up a teeny bit, the bold public
Oh,
comment is the
okay.
next. Is that?
Yeah.
I think it's just maybe how the page breaks.
Okay,
What, that might look confusing.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor? Aye, aye.
I,
Gina?
She said I.
She said
She
she-
said
Okay. On to the regular items, the status of concerns and complaints.
Pleased to report, Chair, that there were no concerns and complaints sent to us between January and last Tuesday.
Okay, and the next agenda item is the enforcement code update. David?
Thank you, Chair. It's thinking.
There it is.
Gotta just get my PowerPoint. So as you were given a brief update by the city attorney's office, we've been working closely with them in conjunction with originally George McCauley's request for more enforcement on issues. So these are some of those issues that thanks to George, most of these photos are his, that he was implying need something else other than just asking, and then more of a follow-up. So where the city, we gave this update to the commission and it was received fairly, they didn't approve it, but they wanted us to continue down this road, was municipal infractions. So instead of putting everything under ADA, it's going to be a code enforcement issue, not just a specific ADA, which the code enforcement issue would fall, ADA would fall under that. So not only the hoses across the road or blocking the sidewalks, but say plowing snow into the right of way, creating a safety hazard would fall under this. So civil offenses would be punishable by a civil penalty of not more than $300 for each. The first penalty is $300, and for each violation, and $500 for repeat violations of said. So it would be defined in ordinance as a municipal infraction. Criminal offenses in the statute that is punishable only by a fine can be defined in the ordinance as a municipal infraction, but not cannot be charged with both statutory offense and municipal infraction. This is kind of the precursor to the criminal side. So, you know, hey, you have an issue. If you don't fix it, you know, it could be this or it could be that. And then obviously if somebody was just very obstinate and didn't want to fix whatever the issue was, it could lead into that criminal realm. So surcharges are set by statute. They authorize someone through the ordinance with the authority to cite municipal infractions. So in this case, instead of just like we've heard in the past that Helena police officers, the ordinance would basically authorize whoever, you know, code enforcement officers or however that will be worded. So those officers then can cite these municipal infractions once they're identified. Any questions before I go on from there?
Well, the one that says 300 or less, does that mean the first
The first-
offense could be just a warning?
Mhm.
Okay,
And then you would get, you know, the way it was set up for this was to get the written warning, which could be a $300 or less fine. And then each additional violation would be $500 after that.
but it could just be a warning with no costs, right?
Could be,
For the first
Yeah.
one.
it could be. There was some sentiment from the commission that they wanted to combine these first two steps, the courtesy and the first written notice. So the proposed process is first the courtesy notice issued for first for infractions. Our idea behind this is that we will keep a log, most likely through the Cydian software that we manage, that has each property identified as an individual asset. Not that it's our asset, but that's just what they're called. So that if we go to this property, you know, every other year or every year and do the same thing, then it's not just the first, you've been told, it's not just your first offense and you can't, you know, claim ignorance. And then the first written notice, you know, the fraction would be sent out after the property was re-inspected after 24 hours of the courtesy notice, to ensure that these violations are getting fixed as quickly as possible. And then a citation would be sent out to the property owner after 10 days from the first written notice for not rectifying the infraction. So the potential penalties would include an escalating monetary fine up to 300 for the first infraction, 500 for each infraction after that. The fine would not absolve the violator from rectifying, so they can't just pay the $300 and not fix the situation. This is the point at which the decision is made of whether to move this into the municipal court for enforcement. The CAO, the city attorney's office, would make that determination, and the process for the hearing on an infraction that is in statute, in the MCA's statutory.
So I have one question. On the second infraction, is that a 500, or is that up to 500 also? For the second, it's not a 500. So
It's up to 500.
up to, okay.
Because it doesn't say that.
Yeah,
Well, this isn't the code language.
yeah,
We haven't got to that point. This was an overview to the commission to say, are we on the right track?
that's the intent is.
But this is the intent. If the 300 and 500 are in MCA, so we can't change that. Those are up to's.
Right.
So. And this is my last slide for questions, but you know, the city commission received this really well. They liked the approach. There was some discussion on combining the courtesy notice with the first written. Like you said, the first written doesn't necessarily have to include a monetary fine. What we prefer at times, then we found effective, is educate the educational component to, you know, because some people are just, for lack of a better term, ignorant of,
Right.
they don't realize that hose could pose a barrier for somebody. They didn't realize that they needed a sidewalk closure permit, or I can't say that, you can't really say that they didn't know it would be a safety issue if they pushed all their snow out to the center of the street. But there's always that time for education. And then once you've done that education, then there's no real excuse after that. Part of the whole process though would be to start a education campaign, kind of a did you know type thing. Not that it's going to be sent out to everybody, but probably pushed out on social media, through the BID, through other avenues of like, did you know by having a hose across your sidewalk that could pose a barrier for some members of our community, or whatever the did you know is, just to kind of bring a little heightened awareness of these issues that we're having. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
First off, thank you, David. This is fantastic. I'm really excited about the fact that you guys have a frame here and penalties and procedures and such. So going from here, what are the next steps? Like, what is the city wanting to see from you? Are they wanting to see the formal language and then they'll approve it, or what are they wanting to see, the city commission?
Sure. So the purpose of our meeting with the city commission, when we showed them this presentation and described what we were trying to do, was to get their basically concurrence that we were headed in the right direction. So now that we got that, we will start drafting the quote unquote official language, and then come back at a future date to bring that forward to change the city code, and then go through that process and identify an effective date. Our hope is that we can get it done and have the effective date of July 1. So that's our goal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David.
Yep.
Honestly, like, this is awesome. This is fantastic. I'm super excited about this. I can't speak for the whole community, but it is really cool to see positive steps in this direction. Like, this is huge. Like, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for all your hard work on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the compliments.
Yeah.
So David, could you go back to your examples that George provided? I have a couple of questions on some of those.
Let me so I can zoom in a little bit. Where'd that go?
And maybe interested to hear what the some of the community have to think about some of these. So for example, where the hoses are on the sidewalk, I mean, they put warning signs out for the able-bodied people, but they become a barrier.
No, there's no warning signs on that.
Well, no, on the
Oh, this one over here.
yeah, the one that we can't see.
Yeah, that one.
So
Those are not acceptable warning signs in the city's eyes.
yeah.
So the acceptable warning would be a sandwich board that says sidewalk closed, use alternate route.
Right.
But at the bottom of that, it has a kickboard so that visually impaired folks can sweep that with their cane, or it can be identified and they can know that there's a barrier there.
So I'm assuming that this is from some service provider that does this regularly.
Floor cleaner, yeah.
So
things like this, once we get closer to adoption of this code, things that we see on a regular basis, like these carpet cleaners or contractors, what we plan on doing is, obviously we're not going to contact every contractor. That's just not going to, but we can contact the Contractors Association, send them a letter explaining what's going on, give them examples of, what things have been happening. Same with the carpet cleaners, same with like the snowplow companies. Send them out a letter and just basically give them notice. It says, hey, these things are not acceptable. Here's the way you contact us if you have questions, but here's some ways to mitigate these. And then,
so a mitigation may be to just build a little wood ramp that would go up and over those,
No,
wouldn't,
they would have to buy, so, there's specific ramps that are made for the size of hoses that they have,
right, okay,
because those ramps have to meet ADA,
right,
so they can't just, come up
No,
and
no, I-
over.
yeah, an ADA compliant.
Right, but we would prefer to just have them purchase
Purchase.
the appropriately sized ramp to go over
Okay.
their hoses and extension cords. We had a contractor in the past that had a similar issue, built one, and it wasn't to ADA standards, and so we told them that it wasn't acceptable, that they had to, meet these standards, and it wasn't received very well because they had, obviously put some time into it, and it wasn't horrible,
Right,
but it still wasn't compliant.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, if they want to build it, we're not gonna stop them, but they're gonna be held to the ADA standards.
And so, for example, with the Great All or the trailer or whatever it is, completely blocking the sidewalk. If a contractor's doing work, he could get if he gets a sidewalk closure permit, then the sidewalk is,
Closed at the end of the block?
well, however,
No,
whatever.
it's closed at the end of the block, because
Yeah.
we don't expect
that-
anyone
I
to
mean,
get to the mid block and find out that the sidewalk's closed.
right, so,
So at the end of the block, wherever there is an alternate route for people to take, that's where the closure will be.
okay,
So,
okay,
and then like one of our favorite was this picture down here of this swing that was attached to one of the branches of this big tree, but the swing, was hanging right in the middle of the sidewalk. And it's not the most, I mean, yes, the seat portion of the swing is orange, but it's not really that.
yeah, tell Jacob that.
I know.
So when we contacted them, they were like, well, it's just something fun for the kids, and we had to really explain to them,
Uh-huh,
that this isn't okay.
Yeah.
We ended up taking it down because it just kept showing up, and so. But yeah,
and,
um,
and the Gym 3,
yeah, if you happen to, if you can read that,
uh-huh,
Special Olympics, and that sign's blocking the sidewalk, Jacob, without a kickboard.
The irony.
I'm sure that's why George sent it to me.
I'm sure. I'm 100% sure.
But yeah, so these are just a small sample of what not only we have seen, but George has sent as well. But they were kind of a good example of what we see from day to day.
and a lot of that, especially the Special Olympics, is just awareness. I mean, put it over and block the fire hydrant, right?
Well, it would have been fine there because the firefighters can kick it out of the way.
I know, yeah.
Jacob can't.
No.
Well,
Well,
in essence, you would kick it out of the way.
not in the most efficient manner.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just, like you said, those are just educational components that they probably had somebody setting this up, but that just doesn't have that thought, that, oh, I'm actually creating a barrier for somebody.
Okay, any additional comments by the committee on the enforcement? Thank you, David. I appreciate everything that not only you, but the whole city has been doing. And the next order of business is the downtown evacuation and safety plans.
I think Gina might have something that she wanted to share about that
Oh.
last item.
Tina?
Oh, I just wanted to ask if the city still has that educational material that we worked on, was it 4 or 5 years ago? With the sidewalks and the obstacles, and we actually had somebody filming it. Do we still have that?
We can take a look.
Okay, because that would be something that we've already done to try to educate, but I don't think it was ever promoted, and I don't know if that's something that would be acceptable for the social media or whatever, but I I'm sure the city paid to have somebody come with a film crew and do that when I think it was on Dearborn Avenue or something.
Yeah, you went to my house to show about the proper location of a trash can, Gina.
Okay. So that's what it was. And so I don't know, is that the type of stuff that we're thinking about doing for education or something else? I guess I'm just curious.
I think it's that, but also as a lot of us, know now with social media, minute-long videos, people aren't watching, so we're looking at making kind of snippets of, did you know, and showing, someone in a wheelchair trying to get, navigate a hose that's 15-20 seconds long, just so that we can try to get all these out there, but also have that larger component, a longer component that we can run in public meetings or other venues.
Gina, would you be interested in volunteering your acting and modeling abilities again?
I think we need some diverse, like I'd be happy to do that, but I think that showing, a visual, I think we should have multiple, examples of disabilities, not just wheelchairs. So yeah, I think that would be great. And to include, others so that we can show a representation and how things really affect, because wheelchair people see that, but we don't always see somebody with a cane and how they navigate that, and just the education with curb cuts and how they're designed and how they benefit people. I just think those are all really worthwhile. So I'm glad to see things moving forward. So thanks.
Yeah, we weren't focusing just on wheelchairs. It was all across the board. I was just an excused.
It sounds like Jacob's getting volunteered for
Yep.
April.
And I would think the news would put this on if, when it gets passed, put that on the news and then show different things, they might do that.
Yeah, our the city's previous public information officer was assisting with the filming that Gina's referring to. So I would expect that the current PIO, Jacob Garson, probably has access to that earlier footage. And certainly he has connections with all of the media locally and could assist with getting the PR blitz out. In addition to social media, that would be his wheelhouse too.
Mr. Chairman, may I add something?
Sure.
Alicia from the BID. I also wanted to make you aware, and Abigail may have shared this, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but as far as our district in the downtown, we would be happy to, make businesses in our downtown aware of this. Abigail was good enough to post, to put out several reminders this past big snow time. I won't say past winter because I don't think we're past it yet. But a lot of snow was piling up in front of businesses, and that's not good for anybody. So we sent reminders out, and actually we're very grateful to the city too. So now when we nag on our businesses to shovel their sidewalks, we'll say, okay, but now we have some teeth. We can say, okay, we're one of your friendly reminders, and next time the city may be after you for, a fine. So we are really very happy to support these efforts downtown. Thank you.
And AARP would post it online too, Facebook and all that. And if you make something, we'll put it up there too.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to item C, downtown.
Okay, well, we have a public safety plan for events in the city of Helena. What this is one of the obstacles that events have run into is developing a evacuation plan, a safety plan, to tie in with their events. It was one of the most time-consuming things that they had to do in order to put events on. And in addition, all the plans were different, like vastly different, so. Dave Kanofsky, Lou Antonick, and Brett Petty and us, we got together and created sort of like a template. So events can use, and change into what their event needs, but basically all the main important stuff is the same. It doesn't get changed with every, event. And one thing I wanted to include, which I believe we did include, but I wanted to get your opinion on this page 4, we talk about persons with disabilities. And it just gives the event organizers a nice reminder about they're mostly thinking about able-bodied and, oh, I can do it, it's gonna be fine. And then they plow through their event, but we want to include this kind of reminder of they have to do walkthroughs, they have to name all the barriers or unavoidable. We basically am asking for your opinion on the verbiage, if it's okay, and I can read it as well, we can go through it. But in addition to the verbiage, I would like your opinion on areas designated for evacuation. So if there's an event of a catastrophe, something happens, that a place where you feel comfortable evacuating to in an emergency and fast timing, place easy to access for you guys, for everyone, 2 places. So if one's compromised, you can go to another place. But if we could name a few places, then I can make sure that every event is the same throughout. And so that way, if there's no confusion, if you go to the soapbox derby, there's no, like, you go to one place, but if you go to Live at 5, there's another place. You don't have to look up every single time, and it will be consistent, with at least 2 places per block where people will get to you in an event of an emergency. So
I would think that would be troubling, because if the event's at night, businesses may not be open at night, so.
So we was thinking about all the events of Alive at 5, Live on the Gulch, Soapbox Derby. Those all happen between 5 to 10 p.m. And so I was wondering if like the Western Bar, Gold Bar is a good place to meet, or Pioneer Park, or Women's Park or Hill Park, or crossing the street to a certain parking lot. It's just an area. It doesn't have to be a business where you can just get out of the situation you're in and evacuate and wait for someone to come. And right, it's the way it's worded is relocation areas for persons with disabilities. The areas will be clearly marked by a sign and provide space for those using wheelchairs that are outside of egress routes. Areas of relocation, an area where persons unable to evacuate can remain temporarily and safely to await instruction or assistance during an emergency. So it doesn't have to be inside, but it could also be outside, but just wanted to grab opinions on that. And every single event will be using this safety plan. So it would be the same.
I would think for people with walkers that would have to have chairs.
I think maybe you could offer both as options, because there are certain things like, a bunch of people in a indoor facility, in that type of situation can get a bit hectic, and people aren't necessarily always mindful of people with disabilities in that situation, whereas outdoors people can span out a little bit more. But then also with the temperatures and stuff, and it's a really hot day, having one option, because you're talking about having 2, have one indoor, one outdoor, I think would be a good in between.
Okay.
So I think it's really situational, and I'm presuming most of the events are outdoor events. That doesn't mean, do you have some indoor events? Um, Can you think of any indoor events that you've had recently?
So this typically applies to only outdoor because this emergency plan is for events in the right of way.
Right.
Private events, that's the property owners,
There's-
unless it takes place on, city property,
Mhm.
then this would apply. But this is typically just for the special events outside for like the block parties, the parades, the marathons, the triathlons and stuff like that.
Right, so I would think that maybe if you identified one location per block, that, depending on where you're at and what's going on, if you're on the vigilante parade, for example, wherever the person is, if they can find someplace within that block that would be accessible, would be reasonable.
Do you want it to be within a block or perhaps even like a distance radius of the event location? I don't know what you guys entertained.
Well,
The consistency is nice, but the events are so diverse
right,
that they might not take, they might only be, let's just say at an intersection and the identified shelter locations aren't there. Some of these, the applicant is going to have to identify where the shelter locations are.
Right.
Whether that's at the, announcer's table,
Right.
wherever they feel that they can accommodate
so
that.
The event organizers would identify the areas.
I think
Specific to
I
their-
think to some extent, yes.
Yeah.
If we identify, boilerplate
Right.
areas, then that's fine. But if none of those work for their event, they're going to have to identify something. It's just that every event is so different. You take into account the Gov Cup that starts out of Jefferson City and comes all the way into town. So we're trying to get as much as this to be boilerplate, so they just have to read it, understand it, and acknowledge it. But there may be instances where they're going to have to identify something.
Right. Okay.
I think you hit the very large points, Abigail and David, and the others that worked on this in terms of keeping pathways clear. That's gonna be the biggest thing, and with the emergency route. Where it is, it's nice to have different, options and such, but the clear pathways is the biggest thing, But my suggestion definitely would be to utilize the parks. They're already, accessible. They're open areas. It's easy access for people to get in and out of. But that's just my opinion.
So right now we have like the ADA defines a disability as a physical and mental impairment that sustainably limits one or more major public life activities. Disability can be permanent, temporary, visible or invisible. Then we move on to the event coordinator, and they have to place their name, so that way they are they're telling us that they have read this. Shall identify any barriers such as unavoidable areas too narrow for wheelchair passage, steps or stairs, heavy doors, or complex or changeable spaces or circulation paths that would prevent specific occupants from proceeding along the means of egress to an exit. Do you have anything I could add or take away there?
Just interject here. Gina, you had your hand raised. Did you have something to say, add?
Well, I just wanted to, I'm not there to see what's all written down, but I know at some outdoor events, I don't know if it's a requirement or not to have at least one accessible porta potty for outdoor events. Is that on there?
So Gina, those are going to be, this is kind of the emergency operations plan in case of an emergency. The as far as the porta potties and trash receptacles and stuff like that, those will be mentioned in staff's comments and based on loosely on the size of the event, similar to like parking spaces in a parking lot, there's X required. A similar formula will be used to say, because you have X and you're needing Y, you're gonna have to have this many accessible porta potties.
Well, I would just say one. And the reason why I bring this up is I was at an event. I know it's not a city event, but it was Symphony Under the Stars. And they didn't have one accessible porta potty on the upper level one year. And you couldn't get in any of the buildings. And I got into trouble because I couldn't find a restroom to use. And there was so many people around that I think as part of emergency planning, that might not seem like it's a big deal, but for people with disabilities, not having access. So I don't know exactly, I'm not there, but anyway, I would just recommend that, people think about that when they're having events.
David, can I ask a question? Is that more of like the event permitting process?
That's what I said,
They
the
would
staff
go
will
through,
comment on
yeah,
it. So
separate
they're-
from, but included for every event, but just not part of how to
Not part of
evacuate.
the
This is
emergency.
just- This is just focused on how to provide emergency services when things.
If there's a tornado, this is what you're going to do. Type stuff.
Please no.
I know, right? Not equipped for that. You don't have an exit plan.
Do you have a thing for generators on your emergency plan? Is that something that they would have? Because some people, they have portable stuff, but I don't know, that's something that's mentioned in emergency planning with people with disabilities.
Yeah, I need to add a line that just ensures that all pathways are clear. And I think that would fall under keep pathways clear would fall under the don't put your generator in the middle of the sidewalk. But it will definitely do that.
And Gina, just so you know, we have in the past gone down to like farmers market and have stopped them because they usually have their generators in the bushes or whatever, so it's not impeding their discussion that they're having with customers, but their extension cord is going across the sidewalks. And so we've been working with them for the last few years to really try to mitigate that. It's getting better, but they still get new people and they don't quite understand that a simple extension cord is a barrier for somebody.
Gina, just to clarify, this is Ally, were you meaning more that with regard to a generator that within the emergency plan that folks do provide a generator so that if people should need access to power, they'd have that? Is that trying to get at?
Well, both, I guess, because generators, it seems like outdoor events, I'm usually dodging those. But yeah, and for like if it's a emergency thing, I don't know. It's just open for discussion. I don't really have an opinion. I just know in my other emergency planning that that's something that we talk about is having access to power.
If I may. At this point, doesn't that become more of a city, like disaster preparedness type issue in terms of, if it's a natural disaster? This is just more for the events to have somewhere for people to be able to evacuate, correct?
This is the egress.
That's why I was
A
just
very temporary emergency situation.
yeah, this isn't a Red Cross. Yeah,
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to clarify both. I think I misunderstood what Gina was saying. You guys understood it and I did not.
I was thinking what you were thinking, Ellie, so.
Abigail, you want to continue?
What was that?
Or did you kind of go through all the?
Oh, yes. But I think I forgot to mention that this will all be, so in this, the first few paragraphs of this, and it just explains to the event coordinator that they have to hold multiple staff or volunteer meetings prior to the event. And so this whole plan will be discussed and brought up during that event. So all volunteers and event staff should know about this plan and what their specific event plan is and the directions of that. And then they will have a first aid station where they have like basic first aid kits, safety vests and all that. But they will also have like a person that is knowledgeable about this plan in and out if you have any questions. And then they are also asked, there's a list of what they need to do before their event. They're also asked before the event begins to make an announcement where and how to safely evacuate, and this will be brought up during that announcement.
Okay.
So
No, I appreciate you guys thinking of the ADA community as you're developing this plan, so I appreciate it.
So when you say announce that, is that just announcing to their staff and
no,
volunteers?
they should announce like before the event, like Alive at 5. They'll get up on the stage, thanks for coming, thanks for our sponsor,
Yeah,
here's a few announcements, and during that time, they should be going through, like, in a case of an emergency, it's not going to be extensive, like, sit down 1,000 people and go through this line by line, it's just, this will be an area, if you need to evacuate, please remember to keep all sidewalks clear, like, just a little quick snippet, but if we do that repeatedly at every single event, hopefully, maybe, after a few years, it'll stick in people's heads. So, that is the hope and the dream.
But something like the parades, they're not gonna announce it
Yeah.
to all the people down the street, are they?
Well, the master ceremonies, whoever, if there's an announcer, they will announce it, and whoever hears it, but they will be, at the very least, at the beginning, like their safety meetings, they'll have to let their event staff know. But like I said, if there's gonna be a PA system there, then in my mind, they're gonna be expected to announce that, whether or not everybody hears it or not. So.
I should note that Fire Marshal Lou Antonik sends his regrets. He had hoped to be here today, but he did say that if there's ever a reason for him to engage with the ADA Compliance Committee, if anybody has questions of him about this matter or any other matters pertaining to fire code, he's more than happy to speak with folks.
Any other comments or questions?
I thought it was a good plan.
Yeah.
Very comprehensive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I want to mirror what they say and just say thank you for thinking of the disabled community in advance and not, so often we're approaching like after the fact,
So I should have contacted you in September after all the events. That's the way we use this. I hope you like.
We're gonna norm, but I appreciate it. It's really refreshing. And yeah, thank you. You guys did fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And it'll make people think, because I think event planners don't think of the disabled. And this will make them think about them at least.
Yeah. It's true.
Is there any public comment on anything we've discussed or anything else that we haven't discussed?
We have no hands raised online.
Okay. On to member communications and proposals for next meeting is going to be May 20th. Anything for the agenda that people would like to see on the agenda?
Well, when will the enforcement thing, you say you'd like it to be effective July 1st. So when would it have to be passed for it to be effective July 1st?
Probably sometime in May.
So maybe if they passed it to bring that, the actual wording.
That's it.
When we have an update on the enforcement, I'll be sure to bring it forward.
It will take 30 days from the date of the final hearing on the ordinances, because it's going to be multiple chapters within the 12 titles of city code.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take some time yet for
Some-
to work through that.
So maybe save that for July's meeting, an update on that would be more realistic.
Yeah, or even yes, because it would be a July meeting after
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we discussed it before, I was kind of anticipating we wouldn't see much actually in effect until September, or, you know. So I think this schedule is good.
Would it be possible to, I appreciated what we did last year in terms of updates from the various, like Parks and Rec and the different divisions. Would that be feasible to do something like that again?
Sure, we have the transition plan and,
Is that scheduled for May, the transition plan?
well, there's nothing scheduled
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
But I think if there are things that people on the committee would like to see included in the see as priorities in the transition plan, it would be an opportunity for this committee to say, hey, if you're looking at parks as an example.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
what do they see as priorities, and have that discussion of what looks like a priority for this committee. That doesn't necessarily mean that the city will be able to implement that as a priority, but at least they're getting our input.
To that point, for what it's worth, Parks will be joining us at an upcoming meeting. I can't remember if it was May or July, but I can't remember either. We voluntold them.
Put it in the
Golf cart, if nothing else. And I told them that obviously they should use that as a forum for sharing information about other activities they might be undertaking over the course of the summer for
Okay.
improvements at facilities.
Sorry, I
It was
can't remember.
May.
I thought it was May.
Do know that we do have some items already teed up for May and July,
Okay.
but I cannot remember what they are. So sorry, I can't remember.
And David, were you gonna do some update on the surveys that you've done on the
LiDAR?
Graphs and, I mean,
Yeah, I sure can.
um,
It's a big price tag.
do you have anything? Are you gonna hold a hat out to the committee as you do it now?
It's gonna be more than just a hat. I try to take one of my biggest dump trucks. But no, I'd be happy to give an update on that, and hopefully by then, we'll have a public facing page designed and out ready for the public. So
And you've gotten the data back from the Rocking Hall, correct? No?
the data is being processed.
Okay.
Which is something I should talk to you about after.
Okay.
Well, and I know most of the corners of the streets have been changed. But I know the one near me, which I didn't even notice, Hoback and Breckenridge. I saw this lady with a walker, and I didn't notice that the curb had not been changed there at the corner. And so she had to go down the driveway before then, walk the street in the winter with the snow and everything, and then walk up another driveway just to get around that. And I thought, whoa, I hadn't even noticed.
Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second it.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Gina, thank you for joining us.